Welcome to the United States of Africa. I'm Akosua Prempeh, broadcasting to you from the heart of the movement. Today, we break down a story that is sending a powerful message of dignity and sovereignty across the continent. When the United States imposed a massive visa bond on African travelers, one nation decided to fight back. Mali didn't protest. It mirrored the policy, demanding a $10,000 bond from US citizens in return. This is not about money, it's about reciprocity and respect. Before we dive into this critical act of national dignity, I need your help to connect all Africans and promote unity across the continent. Please take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to our channel, comment below, and share this message. Your engagement is the lifeblood of our movement.
Mali just gave the United States a $10,000 wake-up call. Yes, every American wanting to visit Mali now has to drop a $10,000 bond before they get a visa. Why would Mali do this? Is it revenge or something deeper? A new statement of African sovereignty? Stay tuned, because this move isn't about money. It's about respect, equality, and the end of begging for fair treatment. What just happened between Mali and the US tells us more about the new Africa than any speech ever could. And after you understand it, you might start looking at the continent's future in a whole new way. So let's dig in. Why is Mali making Americans pay? And what message is Africa sending to the world? This story actually started in Washington. In 2020, under the Trump administration, the United States quietly launched something called the Visa Bond Pilot Program. Officially, it was meant to reduce visa overstays. But look at who was targeted. Mostly African countries like Mali, Malawi, Sudan, and Zambia. The program demanded visitors from these nations to pay a security deposit of up to $15,000 before setting foot in America. The money would be refunded only if they obeyed every visa rule and returned on time. Imagine saving for years, selling land, only to still have to hand over $15,000 just for a chance to visit legally. Many called it discriminatory, a policy born from a mindset that treated African travelers as potential offenders by default. Critics across the continent said it was unfair, unilateral, and degrading. Mali watched quietly at first, but the message was clear. Washington did not see them as equals. Mali's leaders decided to change that. They said, "We will not be treated as a lesser partner." When dialogue failed to fix the imbalance, Bamako prepared a response that would send shockwaves across diplomatic circles. Then came the counterpunch. The Malian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement. American citizens visiting Mali must now post a refundable bond of $10,000 when applying for business or tourist visas. The wording was carefully chosen. In accordance with the principle of reciprocity, the same rules now apply. No anger, no drama, just a mirror held up to US policy. It was as if Mali said, "We're not protesting, we're matching your energy." The amount mirrored the American bond almost exactly, just slightly lower, 10 instead of 15,000. But the message was unmistakable. Here's how it works. Any US national seeking to visit Mali must deposit the money with Malian authorities before entry. They get it back if they follow the visa conditions, respect their stay period, and depart on time. If they overstay or break immigration rules, the bond is forfeited. Word for word. That's the same rulebook the United States used on Malian visitors. Mali didn't invent this. It simply reflected it back. Now, some Western media immediately called the move retaliatory, but inside Africa, the tone was completely different. Malians and Africans across social media flooded comment sections with pride and laughter. Posts read, "Finally, one African country stood up." People celebrated it as an act not of hostility, but of equality. A symbolic line was drawn. Diplomacy must go both ways. Mali explained clearly, this wasn't about confrontation, it was about dignity. Their note to the press reminded the world that there had been a bilateral agreement signed back in 2005 between the two nations to facilitate travel and cooperation. That agreement made it easier for both sides to move freely. But Washington's visa bond program, Mali pointed out, violated the spirit of that deal. The response, therefore, was not an act of aggression, it was a restoration of balance. To understand just how deep this moment runs, you must see it within Mali's larger political shift. In recent years, Mali has been redefining its alliances. It expelled French troops, suspended defense ties with Paris, and sought cooperation with Russia, China, and other African states in the Sahel region. The goal has been consistent: reclaim sovereignty that decades of outside influence had diluted. The visa bond decision fits perfectly into that pattern. One more step in saying, we decide our policies on our terms. And look around the Sahel today. Burkina Faso and Niger are on a similar path, cutting off old dependencies, reimagining what self-determination means. These countries once served as footholds for foreign military and political interests. Now they're rewriting their roles in the global order. Mali's $10,000 bond is small in financial size, but heavy with symbolism. It says, the age of one-sided diplomacy is over. Critics outside Africa argue that this could scare off tourism or hurt relations. But here's the truth. Very few Malians can afford to travel to the US just for leisure, while Americans visit Mali for adventure, work, or journalism. So practically speaking, the loss will be felt more on the American side than in Bamako. And even then, the point is not punitive, it's principle. If a Malian must prove financial trustworthiness to visit the US, then fairness demands the same from Americans. The reaction across Africa was electric. Citizens from Ghana to Tanzania posted messages celebrating Mali's move as the dignity tax. A small nation made a global superpower pause. It wasn't through weapons or sanctions, just policy. Commentators said, if every African country insisted on reciprocity, the world would treat Africa differently overnight. Memes appeared with captions like, respect is the new currency. Of course, not everyone saw it that way. Western outlets describe Mali's policy as impulsive, a tit-for-tat decision from an unstable regime. They missed the nuance. This wasn't emotional, it was strategic. Reciprocity is a basic pillar of international relations. Every powerful country uses it. For the first time in a long time, an African country did the same without apologizing. Mali's calm tone made it even more effective. No raised voices, no slogans, just law mirroring law. It reminded diplomats and ordinary viewers alike that equality isn't requested, it's established through consistency. The Malian spokesperson summed it up best. Diplomatic relations are mutual. Parity and respect are non-negotiable. From Washington's perspective, this may just be a minor inconvenience, but symbolically, it's huge. In the eyes of young Africans, this is a signal that respect no longer flows in one direction. It flows both ways. Parents who once saw migration as the ultimate dream are now telling their children, maybe the future is here. Discussions on African social media turned philosophical. When a country protects its dignity, everyone in it walks taller. By the end of the week, the headlines faded from international front pages. But inside Africa, something more lasting began. The Malian example became a case study in quiet power. It wasn't loud, it was measured, legal, and unshakable. And behind the $10,000 figure stood an ancient truth. A people who know their worth cannot be bullied by promises or pressured by threats. This wasn't about economics, it was about self-respect. The message was simple, yet profound. We don't seek confrontation, we seek balance. And that is why this move matters. It's more than a visa bond. It's a mirror reflecting a new chapter for African diplomacy. Because when Mali drew that line, it reminded the world, equality is not granted, it's exercised. Payoff. Sovereignty in action. Mali's stand has turned into a symbol of modern African sovereignty. By introducing a policy of pure reciprocity, Mali is no longer reacting to global power. It's shaping its own diplomatic language. This moment goes beyond visas. It's about defining relations on equal terms. It tells every nation, we are not passengers in global affairs. We're participants with voices and value. Reciprocity is one of the oldest principles in diplomacy. The powerful use it daily. They call it protecting national interests. For decades, Africa rarely did the same, often fearing backlash or losing aid. Mali changed that overnight. It used the same legal instruments the United States invoked. No protests, no insults, just parity. That's how sovereignty sounds when it matures, calm, lawful, and confident. Across the continent, many young Africans see themselves reflected in this act. They've grown up hearing that dignity is abstract, but now it's visible as policy. Mali showed that fairness doesn't require wealth or military strength. It requires conviction. Reciprocity treats equality not as a favor, but as a fact. This gesture draws power from the broader shift sweeping Africa. The Sahel Alliance, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, is redefining what independence means, balancing partnerships with mutual benefit rather than dependency. When nations decide their alliances and their rules without asking permission, they are exercising real freedom. And that ripple of confidence is spreading. Analysts already suggest other African states may study Mali's visa framework as a model of negotiation through equality. For too long, nations across the continent were told that resistance is reckless. But Mali's example redefines resistance as responsibility, to protect national dignity, not to provoke. The world often respects those who respect themselves first. By enforcing reciprocity, Mali is rewriting the lesson. Equality must be demonstrated, not demanded. It's not simply about $10,000 locked in an embassy account. It's about centuries of imbalanced treatment beginning to equalize one gesture at a time. Mali stood firm with composure, and that quiet strength became louder than any speech. Africa is done pleading to be seen. It's now choosing to be mirrored, matching tone for tone, rule for rule. When one country stands tall, the rest remember how to rise. If every African nation mirrored Mali's confidence, what kind of world would that create? A world where respect is exchanged, not requested. Should more African countries adopt reciprocal policies and hold others to the same standard? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's make this conversation bigger than one nation. Share this if you believe Africa deserves equal respect and recognition. One continent, one voice, equal at the table.